All right, let's welcome back to Straight Fire, one of the top announcers in college football. Not just now, but last like what, 3, 4 decades? He's a legend. He knows everything there is to know about not only college football, but LSU, the great Tim Brando. Tim, how you doing?
Or as they like to say sometimes, been around so long that a little bit of knowledge can be a dangerous thing. And I've stepped in it a few times as well. Great to be with you, J
Hey,
Mac.
who hasn't stepped in it? Goodness
Yeah.
gracious. Listen, obviously, there's a lot to talk about. The sports having a great season, ratings wise, interest, intrigue. But let's
Yeah.
start in your backyard. You know LSU as well as anybody. The decision to move on from Brian Kelly after they got really destroyed at home by Texas A&M on Saturday night. First of all, were you surprised? And then B, have you talked to Brian Kelly at all?
I've not talked to Brian. Surprised? No.
Oh,
No, not surprised. Disturbed at the direction that college football is going in with everything that's happened, going back to James Franklin, which started this chain reaction in college football's coaching carousel. I think that's what opened the floodgates for all of this. Arkansas, Florida, now LSU. And of course, leave it to my home state where politics and sports always mix. And particularly when it's LSU football, going all the way
yeah.
back to the movie All the King's Men, which was fiction based, but solely on Huey P. Long. He wasn't really Broderick Crawford as the one and only Willie Stark. It was really Huey P. Long in that movie, uh, and All the King's Men. And it's true that rings true to this day. That the governor finally steps in because he finds out that the athletic director and the head coach have an impasse at their meeting. Okay, Scott Woodward wants one assistant coach, definitely gone. Kelly wants one assistant, definitely gone, that being the offensive line coach. And Woodward won't hear of it.
Mm.
And Kelly, being, you know, the man in charge of the football operation, says, "Well, the hell with that." He walked out. He walked out. And at that point, Landry, who is, you know, God bless him, he is a big time LSU fan.
Yeah.
And the fans down there really love that. They want that. They want their governor to love LSU, and he
Yeah.
does. He comes in and says, "Well, we got everything that we need together to just get him out. Let's clean up. Let's just clean the shop.
Wow.
Get him out of there." And that's what eventually winds up happening. Well, I don't know that once all of the blank hits the wall, I don't know where Scott Woodward lands in all of this. Now,
Yeah.
look, Scott is an LSU guy, very, 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 very strong LSU guy. Graduated from there in the mid 80s. I was calling Dale Brown's basketball games and doing the Bill Arnsparger show when he was still a student at LSU. He went to Catholic High in Baton Rouge. He's got all of uh, the political contacts that a man can have to be in that position. And he did hire Kim Mulkey, who immediately brought a national championship. But his last
That's right.
two football coaching hires, okay, Jimbo Fisher at Texas A&M,
Yeah.
and now Brian Kelly at LSU, have been colossal mistakes.
Yeah.
And athletic directors in the SEC that have failures with the football program's hiring process typically don't last that long.
Hmm.
Okay, but I think he will.
Oh,
I think he will. I think he'll survive it, but not without a heck of a lot of help from a couple of private donors, one in particular that I gather is going to offer up a big enough check, one payment only, and that'll cut that buyout from about 54 million to maybe 30 or so,
mm.
roughly half that.
Yeah.
And that'll save the day a little bit for the AD. But I mean, think about it. If they had to pay Brian Kelly all 54 million, and that this is the other thing that's coming up now. Wait on it. It gets worse, and because it's Louisiana, we air our dirty laundry in public. They're going to they're going to evoke the morals clause. They're going to talk about, you're going to be hearing stories about a potential affair that may have taken all these different things
Oh.
so they can evoke the morals clause to cut some of that payment down
Mhm.
to Kelly, which is bizarre and unfortunate, but that's how we roll down here. Okay. And, and it's just one of those things. Again, it's always been that way. um, J-Mac. And ultimately, LSU football is the most important thing in the state of Louisiana in terms of what everyone comes together for. Okay. In North Louisiana, you may have gone to school like I did at Northeast Louisiana, now ULM. You may have gone to Louisiana Tech. You may have gone to Southwest Louisiana, now known as UL Lafayette. But the one thing all Louisianians can agree on is the flagship university of the state
Mm.
has to be a kick-ass football program.
Yeah.
Everybody comes together on that. Okay. Whether you went to an HBCU like Southern or Grambling,
Mm.
when LSU's playing, you're still rooting for LSU. Okay. Because there's never really been, even when Tulane was great in the 60s and 70s, okay, a private school that had really good players. And Tulane Stadium was so big it hosted Super Bowls, okay, before the Superdome was built. The truth is, there are some closet LSU fans that are alumni of Tulane.
Yeah.
James Carville, a
That's right.
professor at Tulane, is an LSU guy. All
Yeah.
right. So whether you're a Republican or Democrat, LSU is the thing in this state. So that's why it happened. And where they go from here, I do think Frank Wilson, the interim, you'll see a very improved and competitive team, in my opinion,
Hmm.
when they play Alabama, because Frank is universally loved, has all the contacts in the world. They got him in there because he is a guy from the New Orleans area that can connect with those coaches from a recruiting standpoint,
Mhm.
help build that fence around. And as the portal comes open, those guys that know what they're doing with the portal, by that time they hopefully will have hired somebody. But Frank can channel the high school kids and make sure that those 4 and 5 star kids, which Louisiana always produces a lot of,
They do.
still manage to get into LSU. So they've got that part of it covered, I think, pretty well. Um, can LSU still make some noise, even though they're not going to the playoff? Yeah, I think they might. You know,
Wow.
you saw what happened with UCLA. If it can happen with UCLA,
Yeah, that's
then
fair.
it can certainly happen with LSU.
I,
With what they've got left, it'll be a little tougher maybe, but they've got some personnel, a lot of talent, and Kelly had lost some of that team. There's no question he had
yeah.
lost some of that
But
team.
wait, let me ask you, Tim. How did he lose the team? Was it his demeanor? Because I've told stories on this podcast. I friendly with former quarterbacks who have
Yeah,
dealt with this guy, and he is just not good with the bedside manner. He's
yeah,
not a
yeah,
nice, warm
yeah,
human being. And
no,
I get it. Coaches can be gruff. We've dealt with many
yeah,
coaches who are gruff,
yeah,
but you have to toe the line between gruff and being just a good human being. And by
right,
many accounts, he just
yeah.
wasn't a nice guy. And when you start
Well,
losing games,
yeah,
Tim, they're going to move on, right?
yeah. He's a smart enough guy to channel his charm when need be with the media, you know. And he got involved with um, what we might say is a PR do-over guy before he got the job. I think that's one of the
Mm.
reasons you saw that bad Southern accent when
Yeah,
he was
yeah, yeah.
announced to the LSU crowd. It was almost as if he was trying too hard to be what he wasn't.
He
And
wasn't being
I think
authentic. Yeah.
right, and we saw through that, and that was, again, I think he meant well, but it was a colossal mistake. And I do know Brian. I like him. I do think he's a very good coach. His record indicates that, even with what he did at LSU. The guy won 70% of his games. He just didn't win enough of the right games.
Yeah.
And he laid eggs in terms of having relationships. And today in college football, Jason, uh, players want you to know them by name. You can't be, yelling out numbers. You got
Yeah.
to know them by name. You got to prove to them that you love them. And if you don't prove that, then they'll eventually tune you out.
Yep.
When Nussmeier, a coach's son, his dad is the offensive coordinator with the New Orleans Saints. When Nussmeier just turned down an opportunity to talk with him when he yanked him out of the game at the end of the debacle in the second half against Texas A&M, when he just shunned Kelly and walked
Yeah.
away from him, wouldn't talk to him, that to me was a sign that it was in fact over. That no way is Brian Kelly going to finish this season, because Nuss is a kid that, yeah, he had a rough year. They were a little coy about some of his injuries. He had one to the torso. He had some bad ankles, and he's not a runner at any stretch. He's no Jalen Daniels. I think everybody knew that he's no Jaden Daniels, and so
Yeah.
he was banged up, and the offensive line, which should have been better, wasn't. So they missed on the portal with offensive linemen, similar to what's happened at Texas with Arch Manning. He's not getting protected. And if you're not getting protected and you're not mobile, at least Arch is mobile.
Yeah,
Nussmeier is not. He's a
he's not. Yeah.
prolific pocket passer. And he was banged up, and I think that cost them mightily.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that individual relationship thing is vital, I think, in today's college football,
Huge. Yeah.
particularly since these kids are getting paid.
Yeah.
You know, once they know they've got you a little bit on a hook, they feel like they ought to be able to talk to you like an NFL coach would talk to an NFL player. And I think maybe Brian was a little too caught up in the way he had been raised generationally
Mhm.
into coaching. Nick Saban couldn't coach in this environment today. And
Really?
it's one of the reasons why he's not coaching now.
Wow.
And I'm here to tell you, the first call, I'm giving you a prop. The first call definitely went to Saban.
Yeah, I understand.
That's Nick's signature.
Yeah.
That is on this helmet. Nick would never coach again today because
No.
he can't coach players as hard as he wanted to coach them. And
Yeah.
one of the reasons he could was because he gray shirted kids that he didn't red shirt. He had 3 or 4 of everything, and the players knew that.
Yeah.
Well, when the coach has 3 or 4 of everything, then he can be at times a tyrant and get away with it. Today, you're lucky if you've got 2 deeps. If you get to a third, that's a bonus. That's one of the reasons why Texas Tech has flourished. They got 3 of everything on defense right now. But that's the bottom line. And I do think Saban will help LSU privately. He probably won't tell Alabama that, but I think he will because his wife loved it in Baton Rouge. Even Nick has said the biggest mistake he ever made was leaving for the Dolphins. But at the time, he thought, you know what, I need to try it. Wayne Huizinga's on the tarmac with $5 million in his private plane to take him to Miami back in 2004, going into the 5 season, and he took that opportunity and left. But imagine if he had gotten Drew Brees, okay, rather than the quarterback he ultimately took, because his medical people told him not to trust Brees' health, and he goes to the Saints. He might have still been in Miami.
That's a great point.
And may have won a Super Bowl. And Alabama wouldn't have all those titles that he got them after he arrived in 2007. So I think that Nick will be someone that consults with them to some extent about what direction that they may need to go. And they can go virtually anywhere because the LSU job, Jason, is the #1 job that's open right now.
Yeah. I mean,
wait.
Hold on. I thought you were going to say in the SEC right now that's open. But let me ask you about that. So obviously there's a lot of talent in the Baton Rouge area down there in the South. The case for Penn State is a better job. Here's the only case. A, it's easier to win in the Big Ten than it is in the SEC. And B, I mean, yeah, you're getting great players at LSU, but all the best players in Pennsylvania, which is a loaded state, they're not going to Pitt. They're not going to Temple. They're going to Penn State. So I think if you want to win quickly, I think you go to Penn State. I mean, have you seen the LSU schedule next year? They've already faced it's just a gauntlet. There's 8 SEC teams in the top 20.
Yeah. Well, 2 things. Oops. Are you there? Whoa. I don't know what happened. We just had an explosion here in Chateau Brando. Hang on a second.
You good?
I'm good now.
Everything good?
Yeah, I'm good now.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
Scared me there.
A little edit. We just had, I don't know what happened, but I've got plaques falling off my wall here.
Oh, wow. Earthquake?
Well, we do have some inclement weather coming, but going back to two points to make about Penn State. In the Big Ten, it's getting tougher to win than it was.
Fair.
And the reason for that is because of the Oregons, the USCs coming into the league. All right. That has made it much more of a national league. You are taking, and Franklin used it as an excuse way too many times. Cross-country travel. He should have laid off that line. That hurt him, I think, because he used it way too often. That's one aspect of it. Secondly, and I think this is the most important aspect, Penn State, yes, is the main girl in town. But if you've ever been to that part of Pennsylvania, it is in the middle of nowhere. It's not easy to get to. It's not even easy to get to if you're in Philadelphia or Pittsburgh. They don't have that many flights in there from there. Many times I have chosen to take that 2-lane highway. And by the way, if you have to drive from either of the major cities into State College, eventually you're going to wind up on a 2-lane highway, a state highway, and it's cold and wintry and can be trouble. So that's another aspect that people don't think about. And the other factor here that I think makes LSU a better job is that in Louisiana, we have more great players per capita than Pennsylvania. That's why Nick Saban took the job when he left Michigan State. He had done a study that, the first state that showed up, not named Florida, Texas, Ohio, uh, Florida, Texas, Ohio, Pennsylvania, was LSU, Louisiana.
Mm.
So when you take that into account, plus the weather, the 7-on-7 thing, which is such a big deal in this part of the country with skill position players, I think the job in terms of getting quality 4- and 5-star athletes at LSU is easier now than it used to be. And as a result, I think it's a better job than even Penn State. And I think that you'll find that if you talk to most coaches, Jason, and listen, you talk about athletic budgets, and you talk about, clearly in the state of Florida, you've got more of everything. Okay, more money, more players, but Florida has to deal with Miami, with Florida State, now with South Florida, with UCF. The competition economically and for the players, for the athletes, is far greater than in Louisiana, where, no disrespect to the Louisiana Techs and the ULMs and the Tulanes, they're not on the same stratosphere with LSU.
Yeah.
And this is the only state really within the SEC where you can make that case. Even Alabama has to deal with Auburn, right? Ole Miss has to deal with Mississippi State in state, okay? And these are not the biggest states in the world, but they've got a lot of talent in those states. And, what Saban did was effectively prove to everyone, if you put a picket fence around the state of Louisiana, you can win, and you can win big. Well, now things have changed because of the portal, which has balanced the playing field out just a little bit. Well, more than a little bit, really a lot.
Yeah.
And it's made everybody's job more difficult. But I do think LSU is a better job than Florida for the very reasons that I mentioned.
Yeah. Let's just buzz through some names real quick. Because just keeping in mind that everybody, as soon as Franklin was run, they were like, "Oh, you got to go get Signetti. He'll leave Indiana." But like you said, the landscape has changed. Everybody's got money. Okay, Signetti just stayed at Indiana. Let me run through some names here. Lane Kiffin. Do you think he would jump from Ole Miss to LSU?
No, I think he would consider it. But I don't think he's going to take it.
I agree.
Now, full disclosure, I have one daughter that's an LSU grad. I got another daughter that's an Ole Miss grad. Okay, so
wow.
I'm not going to walk the fence. I'm not going to walk the fence. But I'm going to tell you, J-Mac, that Lane has gone through an epiphany in just the last couple of years. And it was the subject of a documentary that ESPN's films people put out just recently. If you haven't seen it, it's a good watch. Really is. Lane's rebirth, if you will. He has owned up to his mistakes and issues and lack of self-awareness that he suffered from the moment he got to Tennessee and the SEC and left the way he did for USC, then being humbled on the tarmac at LAX the way he was with Pat Hayden, and then having to start over again, go through it at FIU. And then from that point forward, or was it FAU? I think it was FAU. But
FAU.
Anyway, FAU. And then to finally, he was begging for a job at the SEC level, and Ole Miss was the taker. Ole Miss was the one that said, you know what, we're going to do this, which took some chutzpah, given what his image was. All right. And Keith Carter, a former basketball player, who's now the AD at Ole Miss, he's got all the money, all the backing that you could possibly imagine in the state of Mississippi could have. And whatever they're going to throw at him financially at LSU, whatever Jimmy Sexton, his agent, thinks he's going to get for him at Florida, Ole Miss is going to be able to counter. They will be able to come back and say 13.5 mil, 15 mil.
Yeah.
We got it. And here's the difference, J-Mac. If you're at Florida, they've already got statues of Spurrier, Urban, Tebow. If you go to LSU, they got statues of Dietzel, Saban, you know. Uh, and by the way, Orgeron's home-blooded South Louisiana Cajun. So, once the dust settles, I
Yeah.
think Ed will probably get his too. Okay, so you're in the shadow still of those names that have brought championships, national championships, and that Ole Miss, Johnny Vaught was more than a couple of generations ago. Okay, with Archie Manning playing quarterback. I mean, the 62, 63 team, the 69 team that played in the Sugar Bowl, they didn't win an SEC championship that year, but they played and won the Sugar Bowl. Listen, this is all new to Ole Miss. He could be, if he stayed, he could be the guy that they're talking about 50 years from now, 100 years from now. He's the guy that could be the Bear Bryant of Ole Miss, or the Nick Saban of Alabama.
That's a good point.
He'll be compared to Spurrier when he gets to Florida. And that's one of the reasons why Florida thinks they've got an in on him, is because he has said publicly how much he loved the way Spurrier needled the opposition and threw salvos at other coaches, which he did. And their personalities are similar. But why be the next Spurrier when you can be the one and only Lane Kiffin? And he is at Ole Miss, and forever will be if he stays there. So I don't think he's going anywhere. I really
totally
don't
agree.
I really don't.
Let me ask you, so Matt Campbell is a name who was hot a few years ago, Iowa State coach. He's cooled down a bit. Is he a sneaky name here to watch, or is this not really a regional fit? Because everybody's mentioned the Tulane guys, Summerall. He's young. I don't know. That's quite a leap to go to LSU from where he's been. But I don't know. I think Campbell might be a sleeper here to watch.
No. And the reason is he's a culture program builder. He builds through a culture of 3 stars and guys that are not highly recruited, that he really makes into better players. The NFL's got he coaches them up. And there are a lot of guys from Iowa State that are littered through the NFL now to have done what he's done, to win as many games as he has. And he's still looking for a Big 12 title, lost the championship game to Arizona State last year with Cam Scatterbo. But he's not the guy, because I think the question would be, well, do we know that his coaching would translate to these 5 stars coming out of urban locations like New Orleans?
Yeah.
And the answer to that may be maybe not.
We don't know.
So we don't know. They're going to go with someone that they believe, and this is just my thought, they're going to go with someone that they believe is a younger version of Saban, one that can acclimate to the times where you have to understand how to build through the portal and through recruiting. Keep your high school base solid, because you want your roster to be about 70% high school recruited. But that 25 to 30% that's out of the portal, you got to get the right ones.
Yes.
You can't make mistakes on these guys.
Yeah.
And those people skills that we're talking about, the guys that have those that are currently coaching today are Dan Lanning, who's not available. He's not leaving Oregon.
He's not leaving Oregon, right?
Closest thing to Dan Lanning with a pulse that's about his age is his former offensive coordinator, now the head coach at Arizona State, Kenny Dillingham.
Oh, you think Dillingham would leave?
I think the potential of him leaving for an offer quite like that might be,
because his quarterback's going to be going to the pro. Let me ask you, Clark Lee at Vanderbilt. I think he's done a phenomenal job. I think he's going to Penn State, but I don't know.
He could. I don't know that Penn State wants to go after another Vanderbilt coach after
That's
what
fair.
happened with James.
That's fair.
That would be a deterrent, I think, maybe for them. But Clark is going to be a big name head coach at a bigger school sometime soon. I don't disagree with that at all.
How about Jeff Brom at Louisville?
Another one. That's another one. You take a look at him without question. Jeff's a big time offensive minded coach. I do think offense is the direction LSU wants to go in. Kenny Dillingham being an offensive coordinator is another reason why I like him potentially for the job at LSU. Bottom line to all of this is the guy's got to be able to deal head on individually with players and get the most out of them. The players need to know that the guy loves them. Everybody that plays at Arizona State loves Kenny Dillingham. I mean, they absolutely love him. Now, I do think he dreamed of turning Arizona State into what it was with Frank Kush when he was growing up. He saw Snyder and a few other guys have good teams. Arizona State's always been screwed up with their administration. They didn't have the right president, didn't have the right AD. I think Dillingham has sort of galvanized all that. So it'll be hard for LSU to get him. Really hard. I don't know that he'd take it, but
I
he's
don't
the
think so.
first. He's the guy that I would make sure that I had in
Oh.
for an interview. I would have him in for an interview. I'd make him say no. The other guy that you've probably forgotten about, also young, not currently a head coach in college, Joe Brady, the
Oh, I
offensive
know.
coordinator at Buffalo. Joe was the OC for Burrow
That's
when
right.
they won it all in 2019. And you check Joe Burrow's numbers in the 2 years preceding Brady becoming the head coach. They weren't, they were pedestrian.
Right.
Joe
So,
was not
yeah.
all of that until he had Joe Brady and that spread offense going.
Now,
And
wait, hold on. Let me ask. So Brady, I see he has like second or third best odds, Tim, and you're onto something here.
yeah, yeah.
My question is, yes, we loved him at LSU. He's
Yeah.
done a good job with Josh Allen. I mean, anybody can.
Yeah.
Whatever. What happened with those 2 years in Carolina? It's like kind of glossed over where he was the OC under Matt Rule. Now you could argue, hey, it had to do with COVID years and blah blah blah. But
All of that.
he did nothing. And I just wonder, listen, hey, Tim, you work with Joe Burrow and Josh Allen, you're gonna be pretty damn successful.
Yeah.
So I don't know, but you probably know Brady. I don't know him at all. Have you ever spoken to him?
Yes, I have. And I think he's smart, he's shrewd, he's
Okay.
he's good with people. He also had with him an old hand was up there with him, helping him coordinate that offense named Steve Ensminger. And Steve was the offensive coordinator prior to Brady arriving. And then when Joe got there, he was bringing the Saints offense in straight from Sean Payton. That was the Saints offense with Breeze and all those guys. And Joe brought it in, and Ensminger worked along with him. And the combination of the two were just fantastic. And I think Steve, who's still got a voice now, he's retired, but I think he's got a voice that would be heard by a lot of people, would be championing the thought of maybe bringing Joe Brady in.
Okay.
Now the drawback with him might be timing because of the NFL and the playoffs
That's right.
and all
Yeah,
that's
you don't
there.
want to wait.
So and that's also a problem with Lane. If they believe they can get Lane, fine. But if you look at Ole Miss's schedule, that win they got over Oklahoma last week,
Huge.
I mean, they are going to be favored in every game they've got left.
Yeah, they're going to the
their
playoffs.
SEC schedule. They're going to go to the playoffs. So you'd have to wait for him, and I don't know that they can be as patient to wait for someone like Lane, who they don't even know would really want to take the job in the end anyway.
So let me ask. We could wrap up, Tim. I know you got a lot going on. Aside from LSU, is anybody beating Ohio State this year? And if so, give me 2 or 3 teams you think that you've seen that you like that could hang with them. Because right now, according to a lot of the Vegas power rankings, it's Ohio State and everyone else. It's not even particularly close.
Yeah, well, the head of the class of everyone else is Indiana, and Indiana's better.
Really?
Yes. Indiana's better.
What?
Fernando Mendoza is better. Fernando Mendoza, you think about it, Rourke was the player of the year in the Big Ten last year, the kid that came over with him. And this is one of the reasons why Kurt Cignetti was so successful. And by the way, his success is another reason you're seeing these coaches being fired immediately in season, because suddenly all these athletic directors think, well, hell, Indiana did it. Just bring in Kurt Cignetti. Well, what they forget is that Kurt Cignetti brought just about everybody from that JMU team that had won the FCS title the year before.
Yep.
So when you got like 70% of your team coming with you, which he did, that gave him the foundation to go out into the portal and get really good guys, and he did. But now they're even better. And as good as Rourke was at quarterback, he's not even close to as good as Fernando Mendoza. And I picked them to go into Oregon and win because Mendoza was successful at Cal, playing in Oregon himself in the Pac-12 before he transferred in. Let me tell you something. Surratt and those guys, the Indiana team is still, because of the way we don't cover college football properly nationally, they are still largely anonymous players. And that's why Cignetti's so big of a personality that he sucks all the attention away from the play. The players are great. I mean, great college players, and he's going to have a number of guys in the NFL. He's got some NFL linebackers and NFL safeties that would remind you of what Saban had. And by the way, he coaches a lot like Saban. Now he's a little more sharp tongued than Nick was in
Yeah.
terms of throwing out salvos. He's got a little Spurrier in him, maybe a
Oh
little
yeah.
Lane Kiffin, maybe a little Lane Kiffin too. But I think I've got them ranked ahead of Ohio State because
Cool.
I think if you look at what they've done, who they've beaten to this point, they've played a tougher schedule. They've won the biggest road game that you could possibly win at Eugene, and did so resoundingly.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that game wasn't even as close as the score would indicate if you go back and look at the tape. That's the team that I would pick to win it all right now over Ohio State is Indiana.
Let me do the last one real quick. So, as a Jets guy, we'll be drafting near the top. I don't see, Beck is kind of up and down. I like Dante Moore. It doesn't sound like he's a lock to come out. The guy I got my eye on is Simpson at Alabama. Every time I watch him, I love him. My question, though, Tim, is this guy, he sat around for like 3 or 4 years, couldn't ever beat out anybody. And now is he dominating as a 23-year-old because he's older than everybody and smarter? Or is he good? Because we saw this with Kenny Pickett at Pitt. Sat forever, plays 40 touchdowns. Oh, he's a first-round pick. And then he's not a starter in the NFL.
Yeah, here's the problem I think that they're going to have. Alabama, I think, has got at least one loss, maybe two, left in front of them. They have no running game to go with him. He's carrying that team right now. And he's carrying it by and large, and not with his arm, but with his legs. He's become really their leading rusher in most of their important games. And that's not all by design. Now, he can run. Okay, he can run, but he's made big play after big play whenever they've had to have it. For me, a guy like Dante Moore projects as a better player, but I'm with you. I think Dante's going to hang. I think he knows he needs another year. My partner, Devin Gardner, has been working with him since he was coming out of adolescence into high school. And
we had Devin on the pod.
Elite 11s, all that stuff. And so I think he'll be very wise to stay put for another year. But right now, the guy that, I think Fernando Mendoza is playing at a higher level. He's playing at a higher level than the Alabama quarterback, in my view.
Go ahead.
But he doesn't have the running statistics. He's not having to do as much as Simpson is having to do. And if I look at Alabama at this stage, it all depends on him. If he doesn't make play after play after play when the heat's on, Alabama's got 3 losses already. They could have easily lost to Missouri, could have easily lost to Vanderbilt again, but managed to get those W's. But I think they're susceptible in the rivalry game with Auburn. Auburn's got a great roster now, and they just got off the schneid and finally won a game for Hugh. His job's on the line. He's desperate to get as many wins as he can get. The schedule is still going to be difficult for Alabama to negotiate all the way through. But before I let you go, okay, I've got a diamond in the rough on the coaching at LSU. I needed to throw that out, and that's Dan Mullen. I think Dan Mullen might be involved.
Okay. So it's interesting. Somebody mentioned him for Penn State, and I asked my buddy who's in the search firm industry. I won't say his name. What's the story with Mullen? And he's like, there's a lot of rumors and allegations as to what was going on at Florida. I guess he was bending the rules, or he was doing some stuff there. Which is why they ran him out, because they kind of ran him out quickly, and he hasn't surfaced anywhere. For such a good coach, it is weird that it took him so long to get a job anywhere,
Yeah, well, that's true. But in this day and time, rule bending, forget about
encouraged.
Yes, rule bending is allowed, and whatever you need to do, okay? And the book on him at Florida was he wasn't interested in recruiting. That bothered a lot of the Gator Nation. Well, the problem at Florida right now is they haven't done very well in the portal. Pony up, get him the players. I think the pressure to recruit at Florida is not as great as it would have been the first time around for Dan, okay? But now, if he were to come to LSU, he's an offensive mind. There's no denying that he's a very good play caller. And if you're looking for somebody that's got play calling acumen to the tune of, and maybe a little bit of a quarterback whisperer, you look back at how Dak
Dak,
came
that's right.
from Houghton, Louisiana, just about 30 minutes east of my home here at Chateau Brando. He was an afterthought in recruiting, an afterthought. And you look at what Dak was able to do, got Mississippi State to number one in the country. And that's something that really resonates in the SEC. People have not forgotten that Dan Mullen got Mississippi State to number one in the country in week 9 of the college football season
crazy.
when Dak was there. Now they didn't win the championship, they didn't get in the playoff, but he got him to number one, and that matters. If you think about it, now listen to me for a second. If Dan Mullen had chosen to stay at Mississippi State and not go to Florida, okay, he would have won a ton of games at Mississippi State, maybe not a championship, but at Mississippi State, the statue would already be up.
Oh,
for
yeah,
Dan
for
Mullen.
sure. Yeah.
And the money now at all of these schools, J-Mac, because in the SEC, every school is going to invest in their college football program. Okay. In the Big Ten, they get the money. They get a lot of television money from our employer and many others, right? And the bottom line is not all of them invested back into football.
Mm-hmm.
You tell me how UCLA can be this broken down financially. How? Why? How could that possibly be? I mean, you have to have an administration that cares. And, if you're in a blue state, like some of these schools are, you're not getting as much revenue spent on your football program in the portal era as you are in the red states. Mm-hmm. And so to bring politics and football back together again, I thought I'd throw that out.
Look at that, weaving it together. All right, what game you got this weekend, Tim?
I've got speaking of Dion, Dion, you could fry an egg on his head right now. I mean, you could. He's hopping mad. He is so pissed.
Oh, they're not good. I mean, I think a lot of people saw this. Are you calling his game this weekend?
Yeah, we've got Arizona and Colorado in primetime. And if the World Series is over, it'll be on Fox. Right now, it's scheduled to be on FS1.
But, the World Series will be over for sure.
Yeah.
So, wow.
After what? Yeah. We just won Shohei Ohtani or Freddie Freeman long ball away from being on Fox instead of FS1.
Pretty much, yeah. Go Dodgers. All right, the great Tim Brando. Catch him calling Colorado, Arizona. Catch him calling games all season. He's great. He's an oracle of LSU and beyond. Thanks a lot, Tim.
Thank you, J-Man. Good to be with you, pal.